What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to MR6P's Game Room. If you haven't been here before, this room is for gamers, streamers, anyone that wants to play or just watch. Here we play to have fun, so please no toxic players. In addition to gaming, I also post tutorials. I'm hoping that my experience and my videos can benefit at least a few. So if you would like to be notified when I stream or post a new video, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget to hit that notification button. This way you can join me for a game or just enjoy the stream. Alright, let's move on. In today's video, I'm going to talk about my gaming PC's evolution. I'm going to cover multiple subjects, so to make it easier for you, below in the description of this video, I have left multiple links to specific points in the video. You can jump to the part that you are interested the most. So let's call this my budget gaming PC evolution into budget gaming and streaming PC. Part 1. My hardware. i7 9700 CPU 3.6 GHz, Corsair H100 liquid cooler, 16 GB of RAM, Nvidia 980 GTX GPU, Z390 Pro Carbon MSI motherboard, 520 GB NVMe M.2 Samsung SSD, my old 27-inch Samsung monitor with 60Hz refresh rate, and because I couldn't afford 9900 version of CPU, nor could I afford more RAM, and I reused my Nvidia 980 GTX, my old, very old case, we're going to call this my budget gaming PC that run at 60 frames a second or 60 FPS. So now you have my initial setup. At this time, this PC was built to play Company of Heroes 2, so it was enough, but I wasn't satisfied. I started playing online, and I noticed that my game loading was slower than others. So naturally, I started to think of overclocking. So, part 2, overclocking. There are two ways of doing this. Overclock from BIOS or overclock from Windows. Windows is easy. Every company that makes motherboards also provides a software that would allow you to update your drivers, tweak your motherboard settings, and so on. If you have an MSI board, you can install MSI Dragon Center. It's a software provided by MSI. You can update your drivers, BIOS, set your PC to gaming mode, manage your lights, fan speed, and also overclock. I went with the easy route, and I overclocked with MSI Dragon Center. I used the auto overclocking setting. Right after I could tell that my PC became more responsive, faster, my game loading time was much better. My PC now is running at 4.7 GHz. Everything seemed to be working fine. In play comes streaming and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Both of these had a big role in my PC's future. Since I played Company of Heroes 2 daily, I decided to stream Company of Heroes online. My PC was able to play and stream with no problems. I guess Company of Heroes 2 and OBS didn't put so much stress on my PC for it to fail. After a few months, I started playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare to be exact. And this is when I had to rethink my overclocking choice. The first time I played Call of Duty, I got a blue screen. The blue screen of death. I started to think, I have bad GPU drivers, so I updated the GPU drivers to the newest version. A few days later, another blue screen. I also noticed that my PC was running at 100% CPU when I play Call of Duty, and this is without streaming. At this time, I wasn't streaming Call of Duty because I wasn't good at it. I'm still not good at it, but better than I was before. Anyway, rather, further research showed that MSI Dragon Center was using from 15 to 20% of my CPU and adding extra load on top of the load that I was getting from Call of Duty. In addition, I found posts from people complaining that they were getting blue screens after they overclocked their PC with MSI Dragon. To test this theory, I reset my overclocking settings. Put my speed back to its default. My blue screen issues went away, but now my PC is running again at 3.6 gigahertz. And MSI Dragon is still using 15% of my CPU. So I decided to overclock from BIOS. First, I uninstalled MSI Dragon completely, and then I restarted my PC uh, and got to the BIOS. Let me load a recording that I made with my phone so I could show my overclocking settings. BIOS settings and overclocking on my computer. So as you guys can see, my motherboard is MSI MPG Z390 Gaming Pro Carbon motherboard with the i7-9700K CPU, which is 3.6 gigahertz. And after overclocking, you guys are able to see right now that my CPU is actually running at 4.7 gigahertz, and also my RAM is overclocked to 3000 megahertz. Right now my CPU temperature is showing 45 Celsius. That's because looks like when I'm in BIOS my fans don't spin as fast as they should, but once I go into Windows, my fan speed kicks in properly, and my water cooling starts actually working better and cools down the CPU. Usually it's running at 38 Celsius, so there you go, you see it's actually coming back down to 38 Celsius. So really quickly, I want to show you the settings that I have for my overclocking settings. So in a book it says I should be able to overclock my CPU up to 5 gigahertz, but I never like pushing things all the way to their limit. 4.7 is already almost at the limit, but I figured I'll leave it at 4.7. So to overclock this, you will click on overclocking button here. It brings us to the overclocking menu. I am not going to go into great detail on what everything does in here. I'm sure you guys could find thousands of YouTube videos where they go into details about every little settings, but I'll show you the things I have changed. And I did follow quite a few YouTubers and I got a lot of information from them, and I am also myself an IT guy, so combination of everyone's brains brought me back to these settings, and here we are. First off, I have my OC Explorer mode in Expert to be able to see more details. Then the CPU ratio, I set it to 47. When you set the CPU ratio to 47, it actually adjusts your CPU frequency, which is the megahertz. So from 37 I went up to 47, and you guys can see my CPU speed went up to 4700 or 4.7 gigahertz. CPU ratio mode, I left it in dynamic mode. CPU ratio offset, I left it in auto. Ring ratio, this is important, I changed it to 44. Usually everyone says that it should be 2-3 points lower than your actual frequency, so instead of 47 I have it at 44. So the adjusted ring frequency now is 4400 megahertz. Then I left miscellaneous settings at enabled, and I changed my enhanced turbo to auto. CPU settings, mine was at 100, I left it at 100. CPU block settings, CPU base clock apply mode, I left it at auto. Then I turned on my RAM extreme memory profile XMP enabled. I turned that on. and that actually gave me a boost in my RAM speed. Double check, make sure your RAM is actually XMP compatible. Even if it isn't, you could still turn this on and see if you have any blue screens or any issues that you don't want to have. If you see you have issues, if your computer is blue screening or freezing, you can come back and turn off the XMP. In my case, I turned it on, so it boosted my RAM speed to 3000 megahertz. I had to go down to I had to turn on the CPU core voltage mode, override mode, turn that on. That was actually, I saw this in a couple of other technical videos on YouTube, so I decided to turn that on. I don't have much information on why it's done. Apparently, it helps. It allows your overclocking to be more successful. If I say this correctly, then there was something else I'm trying to remember I had to do. I think that was in CPU futures, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check this. Yes, in CPU futures, I had to turn off the Intel C-State, and I turned on Intel Adaptive Thermal Monitor. That actually enables the CPU from it enables the protection and helps or stops CPU from overheating. And I think that's it. That was the only things that I had to change. And also Intel Speed Shift technology, I set it to auto. After all this, I did a bunch of tests on my machine, and so far I've been playing and streaming with these settings for past 2 months, and I had no blue screens, and my computer has been working at its top shape. Hopefully this or CPU overclocking settings would help somebody to push their computer to their limits, or at least give their computer an extra juice to be able to stream and to also play games that require higher CPU power. I hope this clip was clear enough and not very confusing. But as you heard in the clip, I have been playing COD and streaming at the same time, and I haven't had any more blue screens since then. I know you may have other motherboards and not necessarily an MSI board, but if your motherboard has an option to overclock and your CPU can be overclocked, you can follow these instructions and give your PC a little more speed and hopefully stop your blue screen issues. I have to warn you though, messing with BIOS and overclocking your CPU can damage your CPU and cause other problems. So make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions, specifications, warnings, or even better, let a professional do it. With overclocking comes overheating. Let's call this part 3, overheating system and hard drive. So naturally, overclocked PCs run hotter, so you need to have a very good cooling system. As I mentioned before, I have a water cooling system. Water cooling keeps my CPU at 50 Celsius during my gaming and streaming, even at 100% CPU load. Keep in mind my CPU is still overclocked. That said, I noticed that during my gaming, my fans spin up and get very loud. My GPU also runs very hot. I noticed that during the gameplay, the whole system starts to slow down. My PC had an overheating problem. Naturally, first thing that came to my mind, it was my old case. My old PC case was good enough for my old PC, but now that it's all crumbed up and it has no good cable management, that creates real bad overflow, and in turn that overheats my system. So I go ahead and get myself a very cool new Corsair case. Let me show what it looks like. Let me pull it up for you guys really quick. So this is the Corsair Air 540 high airflow ATX cube case. This one is black, mine is white, but I want to tell you guys what's good about this case. This case comes in two chambers, the front and the back. Um, uh, the, uh, the front houses the motherboard, and the back side has the power supply, any extra hard drives that you might want to add to your computer, and also has a lot of space for all of the cabling. Let me show my PC case and what it currently looks like. Boom. So mine is a white one. You guys can see the edges; they're white. On the top, you see my water cooling system, the radiator, and the fans. The case came with its own built-in two fans, and in front, and one exhaust fan in the back. And as you guys can see, there's almost no cables in there, so it has really good airflow. So this case resolved my overheating issues, or so I thought. Yes, my fans became super quiet, my video cards working very cool now, but now I found another problem that I didn't notice before. This problem is actually as bad, if not worse, than overheating CPU. Why it is, what it is, you may ask. It's the overheated hard drive. And why do I call this as bad as overheated CPU? Well, overheated CPU can go bad and cost you a pretty penny to replace. With SSD hard drives, in addition to extra money that you need to spend to replace the drive, you will also lose all of the data that you have on your PC. That is, if you haven't backed up your PC. And we know very well that many people don't back up their PCs. This info that I'm about to give you is very important, so listen carefully. SSD hard drives, just like the original spinning hard drives, have a limited lifespan. After a long period of time, both can get corrupted and stop working. The difference between two is most of the time you can recover data from the old hard drives, while the SSD drives, they become unrecoverable. Life of SSD hard drives depends on two things: heat and amount of data uh, uh, written, written or read from it. At some point, when the drive reaches its count limit, it will just die, and you will not be able to recover any of the data. With all drives, you can take them to recovery experts and they can recover data for you. That might cost you a few $1,000s, but most of the time data is recoverable. So let's go back to the problem I found. During my PC health check, I opened up the Samsung Magician software. This software came with my Samsung SSD. It allows me to update my Samsung SSD firmware, plus it gives me a lot of info about my hard drive state and health. So I open up the Samsung Magician and I see that my NVMe M.2 drive temperature is at 57 Celsius compared to my SATA SSD that was running at 25 Celsius. And this is in idle state. So I turn on the game and my NVMe drive temperature jumps up to red, 67 Celsius. This kind of temperature is not healthy for the drive and will most definitely shorten the drive's lifespan. And the system will throttle it down and to stop it from overheating, and in turn will slow down your gaming experience. So I jump into action. Research online showed me that many people were complaining about SSD overheating. They were complaining that an older boards didn't come with heatsink, and the SSD drives that are plugged in next to the GPU are overheating. More research showed that MSI is selling a heatsink for drives, but it was not good. It was not helping with the heatsink with the heat at all. So I checked on Amazon and I found this. Let me show you the picture of the heatsink I found really quick. That's not the heatsink. Where is my heatsink? Here is the heatsink I found. EKWB NVMe heatsink, the black one. They have different colors, but I got the black one. So let me yeah, this heatsink has a lot of good reviews. It is designed in a way so it covers the bottom and the top of your SSD drive. I ordered the heatsink, and with it I ordered a little Raspberry Pi LED fans. Let me show those Raspberry Pi LED fans for you guys really quick. Here it is, tiny LED fan, and it lights up as you guys can see on the screen. And so I got those fans just in case if my heatsink doesn't do a good enough job to cool down. Then maybe I can jerry rig the fan on top of the heatsink to give it extra cooling. So I got the heatsink, I got my hard drive inside of it, and then installed it on a motherboard. Let me see if I have an image of the actual heatsink installed. Here it is. So you can see the hard drive right in between. It's like sandwiched between the heatsink's top portion and the bottom portion, and that's what it looks like with the hard drive installed inside of a heatsink. So you go ahead and carefully install your hard drive back on the motherboard. And so I got the hard drive installed. I checked the hard drive temperature, and there was a big improvement. At idle time now, at idle, my drive was at 42 Celsius now instead of 50. I think it was 52 I mentioned. Now it's at 42. And during the gameplay, it would go up to about 51 Celsius instead of 67 Celsius. Let me show you another picture. Where is... So there it is. It would go up to 51 Celsius. This is idle, and this is during the actual gameplay. But that's not enough. So I went ahead and I jerry-rigged my little fan. So I guess here comes the part when some of you guys may not like. I'm sure some of you guys will say it looks cheesy, or maybe some of you will take advantage of this info and actually do it to their own system. Who knows? So I decided to go ahead and add a little fan on top of the heatsink, and let me show the picture what it looks like in my PC currently. So there is that heatsink, and there is that little fan I crazy glued on top of the heatsink. I don't know. There was no other way for me to hook it up there, so I crazy glued it, and it just works just fine. And again, this is what it looks like. And you guys can see I have no cables in here. The case is almost completely clear. So yeah, that's what it looks like with the fan on top. And after I set up the fan, now my drive's temperature is 36 Celsius during the gameplay. Later on in a video, I will show you the FPS my game is running, and you guys will get a chance to see my hard drive temperature reading during the Fortnite gameplay. So this little heatsink and little fan on top of it fixed all of my overheating problems. As of right now, all is running cool and fine. So let's move on to my next upgrade. Part 4, adding a new GPU, Nvidia 1660 Super. As I said before, everything was working fine, except it was painfully obvious that my GTX 980 wasn't powerful enough for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and definitely was not enough to stream and play at the same time. Uh, you can play on medium settings, but even streaming at the same time was painfully laggy. So the best card I was able to afford at that time was Nvidia 1660 Super. With this card and some game setting adjustments and proper OBS setup, I can play now at 110 FPS and stream at the same time. Um, Addition of the new video card was not the end of the road of my old card, the GTX 980. I will explain more about it when I talk about the OBS settings. I will also explain my decision to keep both cards. But for now, let's talk about Call of Duty and why I'm keep on bringing it up. Part 4: Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So why am I bringing up Call of Duty Modern Warfare over and over? It's because up until Call of Duty, no other game that I have installed on my PC gave me so much headache. Right from the start, it was obvious that my initial setup of my PC was not meant to play this game and actually enjoy it. During the gameplay, I could see that my mouse was not as responsive than it should be. Um, there was a constant lag in the game. I couldn't even enjoy all the graphic effects on this game since I had to keep all of the settings at the minimum level. I don't even want to talk about streaming this game. This was one of the reasons why I got GTX 1660. The new GPU resolved most of my issues that I had with the game, but still didn't resolve the lag issue during the stream. Now upset that I spent money, but realizing that I still cannot stream this game, I turned to Google. Uh, sure enough, I found dozen posts, people complaining about the same problem, and sure enough, I found dozens of videos with fixes. Some of them very simple. Right from the start, I knew they wouldn't work, and some very elaborate fixes. Truth to be told, I tried every one of them. Surprise, surprise, none of them worked. I'm not going to go over the things that I have tried, or else this video will go on for another hour. But I will show you that what I did and what worked for me. Let's try to understand the issue we're having. The biggest problem with this game is how much CPU it uses for rendering purposes. It seems like no matter what kind of video card you have, it still uses ton of CPU for rendering. And if you have a budget PC, most likely don't have the top of the line CPU that can handle the rendering load as fast as it needs. In play comes render resolution. Let's talk about it really quick. Most of you now have phones that can take pictures in 4K. If you take two pictures, one in 1080p resolution and one in 4K resolution, you will see that the 4K image is double the size of 1080p. So what does this mean? This means a bigger file, and it means it takes a longer time for your CPU to render that image. So if you're playing a game at 100 FPS, you are creating hundreds of images in a second. If you don't have a top of the line CPU, to render them as fast as they're being created, this causes the game lag. Your game becomes choppy, your mouse becomes slow, unresponsive, and let's not talk even about the stream. I think this is when we should talk about quickly about FPS. Many gamers and streamers try to achieve the highest FPS. The highest FPS and lowest ping is the advantage a player can get when they play first-person shooting games. To achieve higher FPS, you need to have a very fast CPU and GPU. And if you have a budget PC, then you have to compromise. Higher FPS or frames per second means higher amount of frames are being rendered by your CPU or GPU. Sending hundreds of images in 4K resolution means a longer rendering time or slower GPUs or CPUs. So to compromise, or the compromise that I found was a render resolution setting in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Um, I honestly don't understand why Call of Duty was designed this way. Why? But when I play, COD, it uses only like 15% of my GPU, and it uses from 60 to 70% of my CPU. Let's open Call of Duty so I can show you my settings really quick. So here we go, the options of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Display mode, full screen borderless. If you're a streamer, most likely you have your full screen display mode set to full screen borderless. This will allow you to move your mouse out of the game, change your stream settings and stuff without actually minimizing the actual game itself. Display monitor, the name of my monitor. Display adapter, Nvidia GTX 1660 Super. You guys can see my old video card is also in the computer. It's installed there, but it's not being used. Screen refresh rate is locked at 100%. That's because of the full screen borderless setting. Render resolution, we're going to skip that for now. Display resolution is locked at 1080p because that is my screen's resolution. Plus for streaming, you don't need any more than 1080p, so this is good enough. Aspect ratio is set to automatic. VSync disabled. Custom frame limit is set to custom, and in advanced settings you guys can see frame limit at 144 for the game. For the menu, I left it at 60, and autofocus custom frame limit I have at 144. Nvidia highlights, mine are enabled. A lot of tutorials online tell you to disable it because it slows down your system. I did multiple tests and I did not see any difference. It wouldn't do anything to my computer. Wouldn't drop my FPS, so I left it on because I like it when Nvidia actually does quick snapshots of my game for me. Display gamma, left it as default. Texture resolution, I have it at high. Texture filtering and particle quality, I have them at high. Bullet impact sprays, I have them enabled. Tessellation, I have it at near. I noticed that on big maps, when I had it at all, it would drop my FPS significantly. Shadow map resolution is at high. Cache spot shadows enabled. Cache sun shadows enabled. Particle lightning at high. Direct ray tracing disabled. Ambient occlusion both. Space screen reflection normal. Anti-aliasing filmic SMA T2X. Depth of field enabled. Filmic strength 1. World motion blur disabled. Weapon motion blur disabled. And film grain at 0.25. So let's go to the most important setting that actually fixed all my issues, is the render resolution. Originally it was set at 100%, that was the automatic setting, and at 100% that is a 4K resolution. I changed mine, I tried to change mine to 1080p, which would be 50%, but once I restart the game, it automatically sets it to the lowest, I guess, allowed limit, which is 66%. So with this, the render resolution is lower, but honestly, I don't see that much difference in quality, and this fixed all of my lag issues. And on top of that, I have all of my settings set to high, and those help me with any quality issues that you might see if you change your render resolution. But at 66% render resolution, all of my lag issues went away. I'm actually able to actually stream without any lag, and my FPS actually jumped up. Now I'm able to play my game with some of the settings that I did in OBS. We'll get to, I am streaming at 110 FPS. Right now, you guys can see it's showing 165 FPS, but that's because there's no actual nothing happening there. But I am able to stream about 110 FPS. Uh, so um, so this just to give you guys a little bit more info, because I made another video earlier saying, oh, this will help you with your CPU use, but I should have changed my wording. This will not bring down your CPU use at all. Your CPU will still be using at 60 to 70% of the CPU power to render this game, but it will pretty much eliminate all of the lag issues that your PC will have even during the stream. Um I haven't seen anyone online to talk about the render resolution. They all have all these fixes, but um, I haven't seen anyone talk about the render resolution changes. So you guys could easily test this on your own PC, bring down your render resolution to the point where the quality is great and all of your lag is gone. Hopefully you guys will actually try this out and see if that works for you guys. Um, uh, yeah, so that's with the Call of Duty options, and that is the render resolution. I think that's the most important thing in this video for people that want to play this game and stream at the same time. So let's go to OBS settings, part 6, OBS settings, and why I still use my GTX 980. Part 6, OBS settings and why I still use GTX 980. By now, if you're watching this, you must have had seen multiple OBS and OBS Streamlabs tutorials. I myself have seen at least a dozen, but I haven't seen anyone with a secondary GPU set up on OBS. I read an article that says having a secondary card for rendering is not needed because of the Nvidia NVEC chip that is installed on the Nvidia cards. NVEC allows the GPU to alleviate some of the rendering stress from the CPU, and having a secondary card doesn't really help. I guess it would be fine, it would be true if you had a top of the line RTX card, but with my setup, I found that having one GPU for gaming and one GPU for OBS rendering allowed me to gain at least 10 frames per second. At first, I only used GTX 1660 as my gaming and also OBS GPU. At that time, the highest FPS I was able to play with was about 95 FPS. Since I had the GTX 980, I decided to use that for OBS and I tested the game again. Now I can go up to 115 FPS. I did this test a few times, and every time I noticed that I gain about 10-15 FPS with my secondary card. Let me show you my current settings and the way to set up the secondary card. It's very simple. I'm gonna move my OBS here on the screen and we're gonna get this weird effect happening right now. But let's go to my output. Everything is grayed out right now because I'm actually recording at this point, so I can't really click on anything or change any of the settings. But you guys can see that I have my audio track 2, hardware NVEC new, info streaming service encoder settings, rate control CBR, bitrate 6000, keyframe interval at 2, profile at high, psycho-visual tuning clicked in, and GPU shows 1. If you only have one video card, GPU is 0, it uses your main video card, but if you select 1, it will use your secondary card as your rendering card of OBS. So it's simple. That's all I have to show you on OBS. And again, with these settings, I gain at least 10 or 15 frames per second when I play when I play Call of Duty Modern Warfare. let's see if I'm forgetting anything. Yes, I almost forgot. Let me move my OBS out of the way, and let's talk about part 7, the monitor and G-Sync. Uh, you don't see many gamers mention their monitor when they talk about their computer build. Usually it's the CPU, GPU, RAM, but one of my best upgrades on my PC was my monitor. Only after upgrading my old 60 Hz monitors to 165 Hz monitor with G-Sync was I able to get to 110 and 115 FPS. By the way, the test that I did earlier with my OBS included the new monitor. Without the new monitor, the highest FPS I was able to get out of my system was about 60 FPS. The trick is to use the display port and not the HDMI or DVI. Only when connected with the display port, the G-Sync settings became available. With the G-Sync settings, it was like night and day. Do not use V-Sync. It creates lag on your mouse, but the G-Sync settings, they don't have any input lag, and I saw a big difference in FPS. The G-Sync settings can be activated in Nvidia control panel. One more important thing I want to bring up. I have my main monitor connected to the GTX 1660, and I have my second monitor connected to GTX 980. I bring this up because a few people complain to me that when they play on monitor and have only one if they play on one monitor and they also have a secondary monitor where they watch the stream, but they only have one video card connected to both of the monitors, they have some lag issues or some quality issues. Honestly, I haven't tested that. I haven't connected two of my monitors to one video card to see what kind of issues people have. But with my current setup, having two monitors connected to two different video cards, everything works just fine. What else did I wanted to bring up? I guess before I end this video, as I promised earlier, I want to show you guys a clip of my Fortnite game, and during this clip you guys will also see some of my computers, I guess my CPU speed. You'll see the CPU temperature, you'll see the FPS I'm playing with, and on that note we will end this video. So let me really quickly pull out that video. I guess before I pull out show you guys the video of Fortnite, I want to quickly show actual small clip that I made with my phone of the Call of Duty, so you guys could see what kind of FPS I'm getting there. Let me pull that up really quick for you guys. I think this was the one. So I want you guys to see my frames per second right now about 120 130 frames per second, and this is Call of Duty Modern Warfare multiplayer. Let me see if I could move around the mouse. So when I actually move around and stuff, the frames drop just a tiny bit, but I'm still over 100 frames per second. Again, it's about 100. And here is the Fortnite at 130 frames per second. At 130 frames per second. CPU hard drive temperature is now 36 instead of 61 or 67. CPU temperature is currently 50 Celsius. Overclocked from 3.6 to 4.7. Game is taking 72% of CPU. But yeah, the frames and everything is fantastic, and temperatures are great too. And yeah, that's all. You guys can see that with my current setup. Uh, Again, I'll call this the budget PC. I got it up to 120, 130 frames per second for Call of Duty and for Fortnite. I really hope that this actually helps somebody. You know, I don't know if I'm sure you guys don't have the same hardware that I do, but if you guys have hardware that you guys can use, if you have two video cards, if if you have issues with your overheating and stuff, I really hope that this video actually helps you guys. So if you like this video and you found it informative, please go ahead and hit that like button. And if you like to see more videos like this, or you just want to check out my stream or be part of it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and notification icon, and you will be notified next time I stream, and you can come and join us. Thank you, and stay safe, and goodbye.